Welcome to Smash News. Today we are interviewing Tony Robinson, an author that visited our school for World Book Day. So what was your favourite lesson as a child and why?
I always liked English because that didn't really seem like a lesson to me. It was just like reading books. Anyone would want to do that. And I like writing anyway, so I would write. But I think probably my very favourite lesson was history. Although this is true, I didn't realise it was called history until I was about your age. It was just one of the things that they taught at school, but I didn't know it had a name. And as far as I was concerned, it was just stories from the past. Well, I loved those, and I loved listening to. My mum and dad were both in the Second World War. My dad was in the RAF. My mum was in the Women's RAF, and they were pretty young, 18, 19, that sort of age. So they had adventures like young people do, and they loved telling me about them. The war wasn't a scary time as far as they were concerned. They didn't have to go abroad and fight the Germans or the Japanese. They stayed in England mending aeroplanes and typing and all those sorts of things. So it was a big laugh as far as they were concerned. So they would tell me all about it, and I began to realise that the time that I was in wasn't the only time they'd ever been in the world. There were other times. There would have been times when my mum was young, and presumably my grandparents were young, and their grandparents and their grandparents and their grandparents. These times when they're all having adventures. I kind of got that. And then when someone said, yeah, well, it's a subject, it's called history, and you can get marks in it, I thought, they're really dumb, these teachers. Why would you give marks for something that everybody would want to know about? But of course, not everybody did, but I didn't realise that at the time. So I've always really, really loved history. And if I get a bit too excited about it, sometimes, some people might say I'm a bit sad, but others might say, oh, it's a good thing to be excited about.
What was your favourite book you have written and why?
The favourite book I've ever written is always the book that I've just written, because you just get so passionate about the book that you've just written. Every time you pour your heart and soul into it, why would you bother to write if you weren't going to pour your heart and soul into it? The one that I've just written is Tony Robinson's Weird World of Wonders, Pets. I mean, what I was saying, to the younger kids, and I know that you guys would have got this, I said to them there are 863,422,964 things in the world, and I want to write about every single one. But I kind of really mean that. I genuinely think that everything is interesting. So I can get excited about anything, even what some people might think are really boring things, because I know that what is boring is just the way they're being talked about. Sometimes people talk about things that's all in really long words, and you're thinking, oh, slash my wrist, it's so boring, But everything is interesting. Pets. The thing that I was interested in about pets, I didn't want to write just another book about how cuddly they are and how cute they were. Of course, I wanted to say they were cute and cuddly. Who wouldn't? But that wasn't the only thing that I wanted to do. And anyway, I wanted to work out why some things are cute. And then you look at the psychology of it, and you see that a lot of what we call cute animals are the ones that are actually most like little babies, with little babies' faces, and they're soft like little babies, and they've got fur like babies' heads. So what's happening when we look at them and go, oh, that's so cute? I don't mean you're cute, but you know what I mean. Well, you are quite cute. But what we mean, it's our hearts sort of looking out for our own species. We're looking after ourselves by trying to be kind and foster and love things that look like our own species.
Have you ever not found anything whilst filming Time Team?
Yes, Guy, I have once not found anything. But the thing is, each episode costs about £180,000 to make. So you can't not put it on just because you didn't find anything. You've got got a responsibility to the television company. And anyway, there's another responsibility. If we found fantastic things every time, then people would think it's a stitch-up. People would think, oh, it's not really true. You just planted them beforehand and trying to make a good series, which isn't true. We've never planted anything. We're very respectful to the archaeology. But the odd thing was, the programme where we didn't find anything, the viewers really loved it. Because really what the programme is about is not, as it were, the reward at the end of the programme, the last 5 minutes of the programme. It's about the people, it's about the journey that we make over those 3 days in order to try and find something. It's a film about, it's a television series about process, about how you do things and who the people are and what their emotions are like. So as the days went on in that programme where we didn't find anything, of course we got more and more upset and more frustrated and more desperate. And people loved seeing that on the television. And when we didn't at the end, they just thought that was really, really, really funny. So we were very worried when it went out. We thought it would be very unpopular, but the opposite was true.
What was it like working with Rowan Atkinson on Blackadder?
Oh yeah, Rowan Atkinson was the guy who played the Blackadder, and I played his very silly sidekick, Baldry. Now, Rowan, you would think, would be a pretty silly man and a very noisy man, probably a bit of a show-off and a bit kind of geeky weird. He's not like that at all. He's incredibly clever. He went to Durham University and then he did a postgrad degree at Oxford University. And what he was studying was thermostats. You know, the thing that turns like the radiator on and off depending how hot it is in the room. But if you think about it, a thermostat is just a yes-no machine. Yes, it's too hot, or no, it isn't too hot. That's what it does. Ding, 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 ding. And what he was working on was trying to see if he could develop an intelligent thermostat. So, you know, he was a mathematician, he was interested in physics, all those kinds of things. But he was also very, very, very funny. Sometimes the rest of us used to think that probably he was bullied a bit at school, and the way he got out of being bullied was just to act like a weird sort of clowny person, and then everyone would laugh at him instead. I don't know if that's true, but that's our theory. He was a very serious man, a very kind man, doesn't have all that many friends, not because he's nasty, but because when you get as famous as he is, you kind of never believe that someone wants to be friends with you just because of who you are. You always think, oh, they just want to be friends with me because I'm famous, and they can take me home to their house and show me off to their friends. So he's kept the small group of friends that he was with at school. Most of the people he's really friendly with, he was at school with. And because he's so intelligent, when he was doing a play or a piece of television, he was watching all the time to make sure everything else was right, that the lighting was right, that the props were right, that the other actors were doing their parts right, as well as what he was doing too. And if he thought that someone else was making a bit of a mistake, he would pretend to forget his words so that they would have to stop, so the other person could think about what they were doing and get their lines right. Thank you.
What is the most interesting thing you have ever found on Time Team?
The most interesting thing that I've ever found on Time Team was a flaw. Now, that may not sound very interesting to you at first glance, but we were in Gloucestershire and we knew that there was a Roman villa under our feet. We were pretty sure, just because of the finds that were coming up in the grass. And there was a Roman floor specialist. And he said to me, where you're standing now, I reckon just a few inches below that is a Roman mosaic floor. And I said, that would be fabulous. The only piece of Roman mosaic we've ever found in all the years of Time Team was about that big. It would be great to find the floor. He said, well, go on and have a go. And he passed me this trowel. And I said, but you can't ask me to excavate a Roman floor. I'm not a real archaeologist. I'm just some bloke off the telly. And he said, look, the thing about a floor is it's solid, it's hard, it's robust. It has to be, doesn't it? If you made a soft floor, it's not going to last a week. The thing about a floor is people have got to be able to drop things on it, spill things on it, scratch it, whatever. He said, if you excavate that floor, you won't mess it up. But he said, I'll be on hand anyway. So if you did make some terrible mistake or it looked like you were about to, I'd be able to stop you. So I got my trowel. And I started troweling. You take off tiny little levels of earth all the time. And went down and down and down. And after a couple of inches, I found this little black square mosaic about this big. I thought that there has been at some time a mosaic floor down here, but it's probably smashed up now. And then I troweled next to it, and there was another bit of black tile. And next to that, another bit of black tile. And to one side, another bit, about 5 pieces I'd got. And then I troweled even further, and there was a white piece of mosaic, and another one, and another one. And I realised gradually that there was a band curving round like that. And then beyond those, there was a red strip as well. So I got these 3 colours there. And when I got round to one side, I found it was all a bit different there. lots of different colours all jumbled in. And gradually I realised it was a vase. And then, out of the top of the vase, I realised there were ornamental flowers growing all in mosaic. And we eventually trowelled away an area about the size of this studio, and it was all practically perfect, except about 5 years previously, farmers had stopped ploughing the earth in the way they used to. They started ploughing much deeper. So up until 5 years ago, the floor had never been touched, but 5 years ago, because the plough went deeper, there were 2 black gouges right through the middle of that floor. So the floor was, 1,600 years old, 1,700 years old? But those gouges had only been done in the last 5 years. Good question.
What is your favourite period of history and why?
My favourite period of history and why? I'm going to answer that in 2 ways. If I'm being asked what's my favourite period of history, what period would I most like to live in, then the answer has got to be here, now, today. Because we're unlikely to get very cold. We know where we're going to be able to sleep. We know that we're going to be pretty healthy, and if we're not, we know that there will be a doctor, a nurse, a hospital just around the corner. We know that it's unlikely that we'll be beaten up by the police or the army during the night. We know if someone tries to steal something from us, it's likely that they'll be caught and probably arrested. We know that we can travel long distances. We know, by and large, we know that we're going to have enough money in our pockets to buy food for tomorrow. It's an incredible privilege. Most people in the world, apart from the very rich, haven't had all that we take for granted, don't we? Everyone in your school has got all those things that I just described. But, you know, that's a new, strange, different thing. How long it'll last, I don't know. We can't just assume that everyone will always live a life as good as us. So I think I would say now, today. The period of history that I'm most curious about is, before, you know, William the Conqueror came in 1066, and before him it was by and large the Anglo-Saxons who were ruling at least southern England. King Alfred. No, King Alfred, the legend that he burnt the cakes, that's King Alfred. Now, he is a very interesting character. He was never supposed to be king. He'd got 5 brothers who were all older than him. His dad was like the Lord of Wessex. He would probably have been called the king, but he wasn't. Wasn't really a kingdom. It was more like a tribe chief. His other brothers died. He'd gone to Rome. He was supposed to, it's like going to university. You know, he was studying in Rome, and had to come back. And when his dad died, he took over. Now at that time, the Vikings were ruling virtually all of southern England. They kept capturing more and more and more of it, till eventually Alfred was only in charge of about 25 square miles in Somerset, and was on the retreat all the time. But at least he was in the marshes, and he knew the marshes, and the Vikings didn't, so it was unlikely that they would be able to get there, at least not for some time. But just from that 25 square miles, he was able to pull an army together. How he did that, I have absolutely no idea, until the army was big enough to take on the Vikings. Eventually, they defeated the Viking leader Guthrum, and they led Guthrum from village to village, because Guthrum's Vikings hadn't been Christians, had they? They worshipped Thor and Odin and all those gods. Guthrum said that he would become a Christian, and they led him around all these different villages dressed in white to show everyone not only they defeated the Vikings, but they turned them into Christians as well. And then Alfred went on just to pull the whole country together. He got the transport going, he got laws going, money going, you know, all those kind of things they were the very beginnings of England as we know it today. And yet he wasn't meant to be king, and he was virtually defeated when he started. So I'm really intrigued to know more about him and to understand how he began to create the England that we know today.
Thank you, Tony, for answering those questions.
Not at all. Put it there. Put it there.
And thank you for watching Smash News.